Right. Okay. So you got the invite then, Nicole?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome. This one says that it's live in the corner, so yeah, this one's being recorded.
Perfect.
Okay, sweet. I guess we just have to wait for everybody else to get it. Okay, so in this discussion, are we just supposed to go through all the questions that she had on the parent interview?
I think so, and then just say what they said in the interview.
Okay. Sounds good. Sorry, my phone's ringing. It's Megan. Okay. Hello? Uh-huh. I actually I actually don't know how to do it. Nicole, how did you get in this conversation? Since I'm the one who started it, so I don't know how you guys or how you because Nicole's there in the new one that I did that's live.
There was like a little like pop-up, and so it said that you had started uh, a new Hangout, and so I clicked on it, and then it said
Uh-huh.
to go in this, do you want to end your other call? And then I said end the other call, and then it let me join into this one.
Okay, so a thing came up that popped up and you just clicked on it.
Yeah,
Cause
like a little notification.
okay, Megan's saying that something popped up that's allowing her to watch us, but she can't be in the. Oh, did it just pop up just now? Okay, and so you just have to end your other call and then you'll be on this call with us. Okay, okay, sounds good. All right, we'll see you guys in a bit. Bye. Okay, okay. I'm gonna pull up those questions. Okay. Oh no, that was not supposed to. Let me see. Um, okay. All right, so I have the questions up for when they start, but um, yeah, Megan said that it just popped up on her computer and she's gonna call Rachel and tell her how to do it so
All
that they can
right.
join. Sorry it took so long. I hope you guys don't have something to get to.
Nah, I got nothing going on.
Okay, cool. 'Cause yeah, I'm just not very computer savvy, so like I went through the instructions a lot and I didn't really know how to do it, but that's okay.
Yeah,
Figured it
no
out.
worries. I am not computer savvy either. Like, I've even done a Google Hangout, like started one and everything before, and I still don't know, like, still don't know how it works or anything.
Well, I'm glad I figured out how to do a live one before we just recorded it and it didn't mean anything.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah. Do you know how long we're supposed to talk to each other just until we're done? Or did she put a time
Um,
limit on it?
I'm not sure if it's this class or my other class, but they have to be like anywhere from 50 to 60 minutes. But I think that's my other class.
Okay.
I'm not sure how these reasons are supposed to be.
Okay. I would think that'd be really boring for her to watch an
Yeah.
hour worth of all of us, but I don't know. Maybe that's her thing. Okay. Megan just texted me. She said that she's helping Rachel and then she'll switch over once she's done.
Okay.
I just guess we just gotta wait. I'll wait until you're done with the homework.
Whenever you are.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, Nicole. It looks like Rachel didn't get the invite. I hope I don't have to invite all of you guys again and start a new one. Okay.
Let's see if this works. There's like a little
A plus person. I think. Yeah. Yeah. Or no.
I don't know. It won't let me click on the button, but it might work for you.
Yeah, it let me click on it. Here, I'll invite her. Well, I invited her friend. I hope that's the one she's using.
I think so, because I think I went over the name and it said Michael, so
Okay.
hopefully it's her.
Okay, let me just ask. Okay. 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 Megan says she's using Michael's, so. Okay. Okay. Okay, I think Megan just texted me. It looks like both of them just figured it out, so hopefully they'll be able to join in the next minute or so.
Cool.
All right. Are we on here? Great. Okay, is everybody here?
Yep.
Awesome. Great.
Yay!
I feel so proud of myself that I actually figured out how to do this. All right, so I guess we should just go through the questions that she listed on the the parent interview. You guys have all done your interview, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Awesome. All right, so I guess we should start off maybe maybe we could just go in order and tell about like the child that we interviewed, like how old they are and if they have a special needs diagnosis or anything. Is that
Okay,
okay
there
with you
were
guys?
some questions that she wanted us to discuss on there that are not just the interview questions. So do you want me to put that in the chat?
Sorry, what?
There's this list of questions that she has in the Google Hangout assignment
Mm-hmm.
she wants us to discuss. So like briefly share some points of the interview, and then after doing this interview, what is your sense of normal? Did you find that the parents were often the last to know if there was a delay or a problem with the child? And there's just like a list of questions there. I put them in
Okay. Is it right here in the thing you posted?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I see it. All right. So, did you guys want to discuss those after we go over the questions or first?
Either way.
Okay. Actually, the ones she listed on the assignment were pretty simple, so maybe we could just go over those first. Okay. Well, for the child that I was interviewing about, he's actually a teenager now, but for the purpose of the interview, I asked his mom to just make it as if she was interviewing back when he was 11 years old, and that's when he was diagnosed with Asperger's, and so I was able to interview her for that, even though he's 18 now. But yeah, we did the interview for back then when he was in middle school.
I did actually the same thing. She's 22 now, I believe, and I did the same thing. I asked the parent just to try and tell me from when they were 11, and she has bipolar disorder and Asperger's as well. So
Okay.
that's what I interviewed.
I interviewed a mom that was in my home ward, and she has 3 children who have autism. 2 of them are twins, and they are about 6 years old. And the other girl, I think she's about 13 or 14, but she answered questions for back when she was younger too.
Okay.
All right.
I actually did not interview anyone who had a child with special needs. I don't really know anyone, at least that close with me, but I just interviewed my brother, and he has 2 kids, 3.5 years old, and so the interview was about her.
Oh, okay. Cool. All right. Well, let's just go through these questions, and I guess we can just go in the same order and just talk about them one by one that we did just now. But the first question is, what differences did you or do you see in your children in their walking, talking, teething, etc.? And the mother that I interviewed, she said that her son actually walked and talked a lot later than his brothers and his sister. That he didn't start talking till he was about 18 months, and that he didn't start walking until he was about 2 years old. But that is still considered average, and so she didn't worry about it too much.
Mine was sort of similar, except she too was talking and walking later than her 2 older siblings, but she didn't walk until she was 3, and she had to, I guess she would put her foot in or something, and so she had to wear a cast and stuff, or like these shoes that would make her walk straight. And then she didn't talk until she was about 2. And so she started noticing something that she didn't know what at that point.
Mine, before that, there was a speech delay. And the way they played, they interacted in their own world, they didn't interact with the world around them. And so they weren't social with any of the other children. And there was not a lot of eye contact with them. They didn't understand what she was trying to tell them, and there was a major communication failure. And so with the understanding, and she said there still is a communication failure.
Okay. I actually asked a different set because there was two different sets of questions. Like if you know if because the first few questions are like if you interviewed a parent who had a child with a disability, and then the second one is if you didn't. So I went with those questions. So my questions were different. So I could say them now or I can say them later.
Okay. Well, yeah, weren't there only 2 questions in that set? Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess we could do that since you'll have less than us, like less questions to ask than us. Okay. Well, for the next question, okay, were some of your children slower at speaking, walking, or potty training than others? Were any of them ahead or precocious? And for this one, she just answered basically the same thing, that her son was later in walking and talking than the others.
She said the same thing for me. She was later in walking and talking, but she actually said that she was average, if not earlier in potty training. That's cool.
With mine, she said all 3 of her children with special needs, they have autism, and the girl didn't get potty trained until she was 7. And the 2 twin boys are 6 years old and they're still not potty trained. So she said there's a definite delay there. And the speech with autism, they can only say a couple of words around 5 years old, and the girl who's older, she couldn't say any sentences until she was 8. And she said every one of her kids, even the ones without special needs, has a speech delay. So it's just some gene in their family, she said.
Okay. All right. And then the next question is, did you have any children that received any special services from school? How did you find out or come to know that your child needed that type of service? And the mother that I interviewed, she said that when he was diagnosed, that he met with a counselor, like or I guess like a social counselor that kind of, I guess, taught him how to be or how to read social signals and things like that. And she said that he met with that counselor for a few months before they moved away. They moved to another state, but that really helped him a lot to meet with that counselor.
Mine, she put her in kindergarten, and she had talked to her kindergarten teacher, and they too had a counselor, and so her daughter had to repeat kindergarten and then would take like a special class. Like she'd take normal classes, but then she also had a period in the day where she would take a special class for her, and she said that really helped, and her daughter really loved it.
With mine, she said her daughter received all of the special services from the schools, and she was in several preschool programs that the public school offered, and the kids on the move program came out to her house, and they helped both of her 2 boys who are younger with their physical motor skills, and they helped teach one of the boys how to walk because his muscles were really weak, and they also helped with speech. And she said her girl was diagnosed with autism when she was 2 or 3, and they heard about these services through the grapevine, basically. They were services that the state offered.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Pulled up the wrong thing. Okay. All right, and the next question is, do you have a child who has an actual diagnosed condition that is ongoing? What are some challenges for you as parents in dealing with that, looking back at when you found out today and in the future? So, as I said before, the mother that I interviewed, her son was diagnosed with Asperger's when he was about 11 years old. And it was really hard because he was bullied and he was picked on, and kids would just make fun of him a lot because he didn't understand that it's like stuff that like little kids did, like little kid behavior that wasn't cool or that wasn't popular. And she said apparently it all started when he started like trying to act like he was a Pokemon at school, and the other kids would make fun of him, and his nickname became Pokemon. And he was just bullied a lot. And so then after that, his grades really started plummeting a lot because I think he just like kind of stopped trying at stuff like school and things like that. And you know, she could just tell that something was wrong, and it was really hurtful, you know, for her to watch her son being bullied and picked on all the time. And that was when they took him in to see if he could be diagnosed with anything, and so that was good.
With mine, she said her daughter definitely had some social skill problems. Just didn't really know how to adapt in school, and little kids can be mean, is what she said. So she too got bullied, and she had to eventually homeschool her. But one thing she said was the hardest was just seeing her child, you know, be sad coming home from school and not understanding why kids weren't nice to her. And so that was what she said was the hardest thing as a parent, is you love your kids so much and to see them hurting. So yeah, that's what she was saying.
The mom that I interviewed, she said that the challenges were definitely the speech delay. She had a hard time trying to figure out what her children were telling her without, or what they wanted to tell her without being able to speak and communicate. And she said her girl would take her hand and lead her to what she wanted, and it was a lot of guesswork. She said that she could see on her children's faces when they were sad, upset, or scared, and but they couldn't understand why, and she couldn't understand how to help them all the time. And there are definitely safety issues. You don't understand like boundaries of don't touch in the stove, don't touch the fire, don't go into the pool, and don't go into the road. So she said that that's kind of a scary challenge they had to deal with.
All right. So, Nicole, do you have those questions that are up, or would you like me to read them to you?
Yeah, I have them.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so the first one was, have you seen a child who has special needs? If so, describe the case and how you felt. And so my sister-in-law talked about an instance of where there was this family in their old ward. They used to live in Texas, now they live in Utah, but when they lived in Texas, there was a family who had they had a very large family, and one child had spina bifida, and then another child had Asperger's. And she said at first it was kind of awkward to kind of approach them because, you know, yeah, she just thought it was awkward. But and she kind of thought that, you know, she was kind of glad that her children didn't have any disabilities. And the more she thought about it, the more she thought that, you know, there are some disabilities and diseases that are genetic, and there are some that are just completely random, and they just happen to, you know, anyone. And she's like, you know, they can happen to me. And she just kind of turned her mind around, and she finally came to the conclusion that, you know, if she's, you know, she's still young, and they only have 2 children, and they want to have 5. And she's like, there's a possibility that I can have a child with special needs. And she said that if she did, she would want to love them like this family loved their kids. And then, let's see, the second question was, have you had any concern over a child who had any transient delays or impairment, and what did you do to address it? And this was another story about when they lived in Texas. But my niece at the time, she had just turned 3, and so they were doing a Joy School. And so I know not everywhere, not everyone in the church does that, but it's basically like before preschool and before kindergarten, like people in the ward just like come together and they take turns like watching a group of kids. And so she kind of had a suspicion that one of the kids in their group had autism, and she noticed that, you know, he was still functioning like a normal person, like a normal kid, and was you know, he was getting along with the other kids, but she could tell that it was harder for him to do certain things like socialize than the other kids, and there were just certain small things that she could tell were different about him. And so she didn't say anything for a couple weeks just because she just wanted to observe and to make sure before she, you know, said anything. But then she said that his parents actually came and talked to her about it and that he had a very light case of autism. But like they preferred not to tell anybody because, you know, they didn't want any kids seeing him differently, and they also didn't want to tell parents because they didn't want parents to, you know, be like, oh, I don't want my kid associating with that kid, and so they kept it quiet, but they told my sister-in-law, and so she appreciated it.
Okay. Cool. Okay, so now we're supposed to talk about what our sense of normal is. What does it mean to be normal? Well, I don't know. I haven't really thought about that. That's kind of a hard question. Well,
I guess I kind of had something to say along with that. I actually just went to the doctor's today, and she had talked about because like I had nothing wrong with me, and like I didn't have any certain condition, and she noticed that like I didn't drink or smoke or do drugs or anything, and I had no like previous condition, and she's like, you know what, you're like the most normal patient I've ever had, and it was just basically because I haven't been diagnosed with anything, so in like the eyes of this doctor, I was considered normal.
Like the absence of
Mhm.
or any, I guess, disease or anything like that. Yeah, a lot of people see normal as the average, or portrayed like in media or TV shows that we watch and things like that.
yeah, I think the first thing that came to my mind actually is I'm taking assessments and evaluations class right now, and they do a bunch of tests on children to find out like which like range of the spectrum they fall in. You know, if they like are average according to the other children in the nation, and that was what came to my mind. Like anything that's out of the ordinary that might make that children fall like either above or below that spectrum that's considered average or normal.
Actually, what came to my mind, it's a little off, but I'm in my Family Foundations class, and we're on the section where we're talking about marriage enrichment and like communication and stuff, and how each person has their idea of what a normal family is and what's normal to teach our kids and do with our kids and things, and everyone has a different normal. Everyone has different traditions and things that they think are right, and yeah, just to learn from others, I guess.
Sure. Okay. All right, so did anyone have anything else to say about the normal question, or should we move on to the next one? Okay. So did you find that the parents were often the last to know if there was a delay or problem with their child? Okay. So how did they come to that awareness? And did you get a sense of whether or not the parents were receptive to receiving services? So for the parent that I interviewed, it seemed like her and her husband, they knew that there was something wrong. They just didn't know what it was, and they could tell that he had some social problems. They could just tell that, you know, sometimes he would just like tell jokes at completely inappropriate times that just weren't, you know, it wasn't a good time to tell jokes and things like that. And he really wanted to have friends, and he would talk to people and things like that, and he wanted to be popular, but he just didn't know how to interact with people. And they could tell that there was something wrong. But it took them a while to get him tested because the insurance doesn't pay for it. You have to pay for it out of pocket. And she shared with me that it cost them around $2,500 just to get him tested to see if there was something wrong. And so, yeah, I mean, they were open to receiving services and finding out what was wrong. It was just that it cost a lot of money. And they had a lot of kids, and so that wasn't cheap for them. So, I just became aware of it just because they could see that he was really struggling in school and being bullied, and just from their own observations with his brothers and sister as well, like he was just really socially awkward.
In the interview that I did, they said pretty much the same thing. They could just tell different. They had 2 older siblings, and she was not going in the same stages that they were, and she was extremely socially awkward as well. And so just through those things and delayed walking and just delayed development in general, they knew something was wrong, and they didn't know exactly what it was. They had some guesses, and they didn't find out until she was starting to attend school.
With the mother that I interviewed, she kind of, like, they could tell that there were definitely some delays pretty quick because it was more severe, I guess, than other cases. And they seem to be very receptive to the services. I think that the parents in that family are just very down to earth and very open and loving, and they just want to help their children, and they're very patient in everything. I had to help the 2 little boys when they were in Sunbeams, and I absolutely loved it, but it was hard, and I definitely have a lot of respect for her being able to talk about it openly and being receptive to the services out there.
Mm-hmm. I can definitely kind of see both sides where, like, the parent would be the first to notice, or like someone, like some outside person. I think when, like, a parent is home more, they can notice their child interact with different things, and they can kind of get a better sense of if their child has, something that needs to be checked out. But one of my friends, her cousin, she said something like there was this big, huge thing that went on with one of their childs and the teacher, because their teacher had came to this child's parent and was like, I think your child, needs to be checked out, but the mom was just like, no, you're totally wrong. But the mom and the dad both worked like nearly every waking hour that this kid was awake, and so they never saw their kid, and so they were completely oblivious to the whole thing.
I can see as well. I think this kind of goes along with the next question, so I don't want to try and jump ahead, but also just the lady that I interviewed, she was talking to me, and the sense of denial, like no one wants to think like, oh, my child's struggling with something, like they just, I don't know, it's hard to hear that. And so I think that could also be a reason why some parents don't necessarily see it before others.
Yeah, I think so as well. I have an aunt. She's a superintendent at a preschool, and this preschool is only for special needs children. You have to qualify for your child to be in the program. So she does IEPs constantly. Every child has an IEP, and they put her in nursery at church, actually, in her family ward, and it's really interesting because she can tell right away when a child has a delay of some kind, and she'll just go right to the parents and tell them, and most of the parents aren't very receptive to it. It's really kind of interesting. They don't want to think that their child might have something wrong. And eventually, though, she's noticed that most of them, within a year or so, that they'll come around and they'll like try to see if they can get services for their child. But at first, they're not very open to it.
I think that has to do with the sense of normal. Like, parents deny that because they don't want their child to be different or seen as special or be made fun of at all.
Yeah. So should we go to the next question?
Yeah. What is
Okay.
it?
Did you get a sense that parents were uncomfortable or had a sense of denial, shame, embarrassment related to their child's special needs? Or did they feel a sense of resolution or acceptance and had a long-term plan for dealing with their child's needs? With mine, like I had said earlier, she did say that she at first had a sense of denial. Just that it was her child and no one ever wants to think that their child are struggling with something. But now she, as time has passed, she seemed like she definitely had accepted it and definitely had some plans to help. One thing she did say though is that there are times that it's hard for her because she wants, to have the retired life that a lot of parents have and be empty nesters and all this thing, but she won't have that, and it used to really kind of bug her, and now, I don't know, she's doing a lot better with that, I guess, and she has a lot of plans, so.
I could definitely see a lot of parents being like that, where they kind of deny it because they don't necessarily want their child to live with a disability, but then as time goes on, they accept it and then they have to live with it so that way they can give this child the best outcome.
Yeah.
I think,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Megan.
that's okay. I think that with the resolution thing, it can be comforting to parents once they do accept that there are things that they can do to help their child.
Yeah. I think so too. I find it really sad actually. I'm taking a class right now about how to be an interventionalist for parents, and a lot of times it's just really sad how parents, like, if their child can't do certain things, they just they won't even make a plan to work up to helping their child as much as they can. It's just like our teacher was sharing with us about how, like, this one child, he couldn't speak at all, and his parents just really, really wanted him to speak, and they wouldn't even have him start off talking on a machine at first. They just, if he couldn't speak, then they didn't even want to try. But the parents that I interviewed, I found that they were just really accepting, and they didn't feel embarrassed. They were just really relieved to get a diagnosis of some kind. And once they did, they were just really happy because their son, once he found out what was wrong, he realized what he needed to do to change. And then things just started getting so much better for him, and he realized that he needed to watch himself in social situations so that he could learn how to do the things that his peers were doing and things like that, and to read social signals and stuff. And after that, he did really, really well. And when they moved, that was when he started getting services, and none of the kids knew him in the new place that he moved to. And so he was actually able to make a lot of friends, and I know him really well, and he's actually really popular, and he's he goes on dates all the time stuff, and he has a girlfriend now. I mean, he's a really cool kid, and I love talking to him. He's really funny. I would have never guessed that he had Asperger's. He needed to know what was wrong, and then he was able to make plans to change it, and his parents helped him with that. So that was a really cool story for them.
I think a struggle that some parents have with kids that have special needs is to limit them and constantly just give them excuses, I guess, and or more give the parent yourself an excuse to not trying and working. And the person I interviewed had said that there were some hard times, definitely, but she just always encouraged her daughter and never let her daughter limit herself. And I know the daughter as well. She's 22, and a lot of people who meet her, she's just this super bubbly, talkative, fun girl, and a lot of people who have met her have no idea that she has that. And so just constantly encouraging your kids, I think, can do wonders.
Yeah.
There was also a few more things on there on the directions. I put it in the chat thing. It starts with once every group member has had a chance to address these questions, let the discussion flow naturally. And then it goes all the way down to the bottom where we need to summarize.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, I'm just reading it. Okay. Okay. So I think the thing that I really learned the most is like once you find out what's wrong, that's a real relief because then you can know what resources you have available to you to help your child, and that it does no good to like deny what's going on or like try to just like ignore it and it'll go away because that doesn't work. You need to start as soon as possible, like trying to help your child the best way that you can, and that's when you're going to see results. Mm-hmm.
Someone's like, someone's like, what if America got into World Cup? No one would care. It doesn't matter.
It's not working.
Is it not working?
Like froze for a second. Ah. I did not hear the last little bit that you just said.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was wondering why nobody was talking. Okay. Okay. Well, I just said that like the thing that I learned most from my parent interview is that like finding out what's wrong and knowing what resources are available to you are important because that's when you can really start helping your child, and before then you're just kind of in the dark and you don't know what's going on. But then when you start helping, that's when you're going to start seeing changes.
Yeah, I agree. There's so many programs and opportunities for children like that, and I think if parents look for that and introduce their kids to that, it can help them so much. Rather than just doing it all alone, you have a support system, and that child has a safe place to go and work things out.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the main thing that I learned from mine, my sister-in-law even said that, even though her children don't have special needs, she could definitely notice a difference in their development and just how, just because they're both very different on spectrums on size, like one's in the 98th percentile and the other one is in the point something percentile, like the other one's, she's very teeny and one was very huge for her age, and she said that, they develop differently, and so she can definitely see where a child with special needs would develop differently, and they need that extra, kind of like what you guys are saying, they need that extra support.
I think what I learned from mine was that it's important to accept that support and to not be in denial, I guess, just because you want your child to be normal, and realize that everyone is different and we need to accept each child as they are and help them get through this life.
Yeah. Because the help is totally out there. Like, I mean, we're so informed on a lot of these, delays and everything, and there's professionals out there that really know how to help. And so I find it really sad when parents just like are so focused on their child being like everybody else that they don't want to accept that there's anything wrong, and so they won't like take advantage of those resources that are out there. And it's truly maybe their child will never be exactly like the other children, but they can a lot of times come pretty close if they're, willing to take advantage of those resources. Yeah. Did it freeze again?
So how long has the recording been going since we all actually joined? I know it started before we came to
Yeah, because Nicole and I were kind of sitting here for about 10 minutes, but I don't know. It doesn't tell me. There's nothing that
It
times
doesn't
it
tell
or
you when it started. Is that what you said?
yeah, it doesn't tell me when it started.
Um,
It
no,
probably
I
will
don't
after
know.
I click off of it, but anyway.
Um,
But
I'm pretty sure it was around 2 and it's 2:59 right now. I'm not sure. I was probably counting when you and Nicole were on here, but that probably doesn't count.
yeah, probably not. But I don't. She didn't really put like a time on it. But I think she just wanted us discuss all that
Yeah.
stuff. Um,
Yeah, I think we discussed pretty good and kind of got everything out there.
Yeah.
So at the end, she says, have a group member summarize the discussion and any consensus that was reached.
all right. Well, I think that we've talked a lot about the different developmental delays that children can have, or ones that they might not have. But like the main theme is that like, we're all different, and each of us um, will develop differently, even if we are considered in that average range. But it is important to know like the way that your child is developing and the ways that you can best help them, whether they are average or not. And if they do have delays, that it's important to find those resources for them and find the best way that you can help your child and not be embarrassed or ashamed, but just love them the way that they are and accept them for who they are.
I love that.
Me too. Okay. All right. Well, does anyone else have anything else to say about the stuff we talked about? Good. Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna stop the broadcast, but it was good seeing you guys again. And yeah, I guess for the next group project.
Yep.
All right.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Bye.
Bye.